Welcome everyone back to Elder Needs Law, the Elder Needs Law Show. And today I am thrilled to be speaking with Bill Gruntler. He is the president, the CEO, the founder of the Asset Protection Group. And remember, I always start off every show saying I'm just an elder law attorney and I happen to do a lot of asset protection, but I don't do everything surrounded asset protection. I don't do everything that related to the elderly. So the goal of this show is to expose people to resources and assets and information that they may not have realized were available to them to learn something and help. The goal is to help our elderly loved ones, our disabled loved ones, live as independent and high of a quality of life as possible. And with that, Bill, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself. Let's talk about a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Great. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak and help some folks out. I mean, that's the number one thing that we're here to do is improve people's lives, make things more safe and secure in a time where anxiety is out there and so many things that are going on that we just want to bring some comfort to people with some ideas. And so we do a host of different types of planning for individuals and families. The main concern a lot of times is making sure that when one person passes away, if it's a couple, that the other one is going to be okay. And usually what that means is there's going to be some changes of income coming in. So part of what we do is just design plans so that the same promise that you made is kept through even when you pass away, that they're going to be okay.
Yeah, and that's another intersection of what you and I do. I, of course, from the legal side, and we put together revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts, and that's one way to pass on wealth. Let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about what are the type of things that you discuss with your clients as to help effectuate that goal as well.
Sure. Sometimes and often when somebody passes away, they're both getting Social Security, maybe even a pension. And when one person passes away, the one thing we want to make sure is, all right, let's replace the income to make sure that that's not another concern. And we do some private pension planning. We make sure that we don't put anyone, especially that is mature or elderly, in anything that's going to be high risk in the market, because that just doesn't make sense. This is a time of life where people should be more concerned about having predictable plans, so that they can just focus on, enjoying the family and things of that nature. So we just try to make sure if there is a need for income replacement, that we're replacing some of the pension, replacing that one lost Social Security benefit. And that's really what we're trying to get to, is just where the account that they're paying their bills out of, it just, really doesn't go down, that it still stays the same, even though the person they love is maybe passed on.
And when you say private pension, does that mean annuities, or is there something else involved there?
It could. Unfortunately, annuities have a bad reputation with some people. They've read that things are bad with them. But what most people don't realize is there's all kinds of annuities, and there are high risk. We don't do those. We do the type that, for an example, General Motors just sent $26 billion of their pension money to an insurance company to put in annuity, because they realize that that's the type of annuities that pensions are designed through. So we only do the type that's principally protected and that have a guarantee payment for someone's life.
Yeah, and I think that's a very fair point, is that annuities get a bad rap. And I think, like everything else in this world, there are good financial planners and bad financial planners. There's good lawyers, there's bad lawyers. One thing that I really admire about you, Bill, is we share a focus on educating. You aren't someone who, you and I are both not people who say, trust us, just give us your money, we'll make the problem go away. We're going to explain to you exactly what it is that's going on, and here's your options, and here are the pros and cons to everything. And I know you place a very high premium on that. One of the reasons why I wanted you on this show. Let's talk about that. I know you run, maybe not as frequently now because of the pandemic, but before the pandemic, you were running educational seminars. Let's talk about what kind of stuff you're doing. How can people get educated? What are you teaching folks how to do?
Sure. Yeah. And that's a great point. I've been doing this for 32 years, and I want to educate someone so that they're not just following my advice, but that they understand, at least to a basic level, what they're doing. one of the things that I tell people in our class is don't feel bad that you don't understand these things.
Yeah.
It's very comparable to how I've got a car and I know how to fill up the gas and oil and maybe put some air in the tires. But when it breaks down, I take it to someone that's a mechanic. And it's not that I couldn't be a mechanic. I just haven't spent my years and hours training that. And so what I tell people is we don't want to train you to be a mechanic, but we want you to give you a basic understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it. So, it's interesting, the classes that we've been doing at the colleges, we do them in municipalities, we do them in hospitals. People want to understand what they're doing. And the biggest challenge is if they'll take the time to actually go to one of the events and they get a better handle on why they should or should not make certain decisions, it helps them feel a lot more comfortable when they're going through things so that they can then say, you know what, I remember we addressed this. We came up with a plan, just like what they do with you with the legal. You came up with a plan because failing the plan is a mess. But when you've got a plan that you can count on, that is what's going to give them their real comfort in retirement. And so they don't have to sit there and always watch and be glued to the TV with all the negative things that they see and worry about that.
And when you get the education, you become a better advocate for yourself. You're able to now ask more intelligent questions to really get to the bottom of things. So what are you teaching these days? What kind of courses can I come sign up and take with you, Bill?
Wow. There's so many things. Really,
take out the cooking classes and the dog training classes.
So taxes, which, nobody likes taxes. Imagine that. Me included. But I'll tell you that most people know that we unfortunately have a tremendous amount of debt now in the country. We're actually higher in debt per capita than we were after World War II, believe it or not. And the United States funded most of the equipment for most of the world in World War II. We're actually higher than that. And that was prior to the pandemic, to COVID. Imagine where we are now. And so what we're looking at on the horizon is taxes. They've got to increase. Not my rule, but they have to. And the reason is because all that debt has to get paid back.
How are we going to pay the bill? That's right. That's right.
Absolutely. So, it's kind of like you and I have a credit rating based on how well we pay our credit cards and loans back. Well, so does the United States. And 10 years ago was the first time that our bonds were downgraded for the first time in our history because we owed too much money, and we're worse off than that right now. So big thing we're talking about is, all right, maybe it makes sense to do some strategic Roth conversion. Doesn't make sense for everyone. That's a big one. The other thing we're really focusing on a lot too is the market, meaning the stock market is at an all-time crazy high. And it's unfortunate, but we're probably going to see a tremendous loss of wealth. And that's something, in my belief, is that when someone is retired, they're more mature, they're seniors, they're elderly. Risk is not something that's a good thing.
So if another bubble bursts and there's a dramatic drop in the stock market, a lot of people stand to lose a lot of money, and you're interested in putting together strategies to help people minimize or avoid that altogether.
Yeah. We got away from doing high risk quite a few years ago. My father, his focus was when he went to retire, his nickname was Grumpy, that everybody knew him by, and he was a character, but he lost his father at the age of 19. And so he had to work with his hands and was always the provider. But just before he got ready to retire, about 6 months before his 70th birthday, he called me up and he said, look, I want to go ahead and retire, which was a shock because I never thought he would. And he said to me, I don't understand anything that you do for me. I don't understand the investments, the insurance, Social Security, or any of these things. And he goes, and I don't want to understand them. All I want to know is when your mom and I retire, I never have to worry about going back to work again. And that changed my focus as a practice of what we do. So that's what we primarily look at, is avoiding those things, because there's a lot of them, as you know, that can make it to where now you have to go back to work at a time when these should be the golden years and you should be able to relax.
That's right. Income replacement, tax minimization. These are your sounds like your primary focus areas. This is the advice and the education and the strategies that you're able to put together for individuals. And that's so important because, again, my primary goal as an elder law attorney is to make sure that my client lives the highest possible quality of life, and then make it more likely that we're efficiently passing on their assets to their heirs in the most efficient way possible. And you and I work very well together on that end. And as an aside, I want folks to know that I have personally referred my clients to Bill, and he is wonderful at what he does. Not a high pressure situation. Like I said, he's educating people, helping them make the best decision for themselves, steering them away from the strategies that are going to be the higher risk strategies. And I appreciate that very much about you, Bill.
Yeah, no, and the other thing that I try to make sure is that if it's what we're doing, just like with what they're doing with you on the legal, it's got to make sense to them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we find a lot of times that people have worked with advisors where they never understood. They just simply follow the direction of the advisor. And one of the things that I'm constantly saying to people as we're going through things is, does this make sense? Because it's got to make sense.
Right.
So that what you're doing is right for you.
100%. Wanted to ask you, you have some letters next to your name that I don't see frequently. You have the LUTCF. Why don't we talk about what that is and what that designation means and its significance?
Yeah, so life train, and let me just say, there are at least 30 designations and adding in our industry.
Right.
The term financial planner, financial advisor, it's not a legal term. It's thrown around for people that maybe just do auto insurance and all these things. So Life Underwriter Training Council Fellow is an organization that when I first started out 32 years ago, it was classes where you could get in depth in real world situations, not specifically just book knowledge. But building plans for people, looking at disability, looking at passing on wealth and all these other things. And what was neat with it is it allowed us to get real world experience at a young age for me, because I was only 25. And it allowed me to get a depth of knowledge that otherwise it would have taken me years to get that. And so that's just something that, I built on, and I try telling people, we're continually educating, but I had to get educated on this as well. And so, I suggest to people, because we're also fiduciaries. And I suggest to people that when they're dealing with someone with their finances, what a fiduciary means is you have to legally act in that person's best interest.
That's right.
Not all advisors are fiduciaries. So I would suggest anybody, if they're working with someone, make sure they're working with someone of that level.
That's right.
Because that's important. And that's one of the reasons why we are in some of the police departments, municipalities, colleges, because they want people that are fiduciaries teaching those courses and handling affairs for their employees.
Bill, terrific. You're involved in the community, you're educating folks. We're going to put a link to your website. We're going to provide people your phone number. Is there a phone number that you want to just spell it out, your phone number and your website, but we're going to put it in writing in the show notes as well.
Sure. Yeah. Anybody can reach the office, 954-598-0752. We have normal hours as most people. We're off a little bit early on Fridays because I like to give my staff a break. But at any point, they can leave us messages, get a hold of us if they want to set up meetings, if they want to find out when the next class is. Also, let me just say this too, for a lot of people is, when we have someone come in, we ask them questions. If they're younger, we ask them questions about their parents. And the reason is because normally what happens to someone's parents will affect them. But also when we have people that are elderly come in, we'll ask them about their kids, because we want them involved in these meetings so that they get their affairs taken care of as well. And also so that they cannot have to worry about these things.
That's right. That's right. Holistic approach, always better. Bill, Bill Gruntler from Asset Protection Group, thank you very much for being with us today. Again, we're going to put all your contact information in the show notes so people can contact you directly, and we greatly appreciate your insight and your information and all you do for the community.
All right, Jason, thank you so much, and I enjoyed spending some time with you.
Always. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.